Hey, everybody, it is Tim Gillette here with another episode of the Tim Gillette Show. That must mean it's either a Tuesday, a Thursday, or a Friday that we are recording this live. So, as usual, we have people coming in, all right, to be our guest. And in some cases, I don't know who they are. All right. I know this is my show. It's got my name, but I love interviewing people. And really, it is so much fun to get to know somebody live on camera. Now, I am going to be honest. I did check out to make sure she had a website. All right. I do check that to make sure. That is one of my requirements for being on the show is they've got to have a website. So I did check that. I did check. We are connected on social media now. All right. But other than that, this is someone who I understand is very unique. And I'm going to find out who she is, what she does, how she helps people, and the way that she believes in helping the planet get better, all in today's show. So with that being said, this is my official way of saying welcome to the show today, Miss Shā Sparks. Hi, Shā.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to dive in and get to know each other.
So first of all, I did notice before we start is behind you, you have a folded American flag. Yeah. Tell me about that before we go into you.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. It is from my dad's funeral, and he was drafted to Korea during, I believe, the Vietnam War, although I'm not for sure. He never talked about it. The only time I heard about it was 6 months before he passed away, and that was when I first learned that he was drafted. Up until then, I always thought he had enlisted into the Army. And so since then, my life has definitely shifted. I am a certified fearless living coach, and I was helping women who have lost their voice in their relationship. And since then, after my dad, it's really shifted to helping veterans or people who are in the military and transitioning out and going back to civilian life.
I have a huge heart for veterans. My father was in the service. My uncle served in Vietnam. I think he did 3 tours in Vietnam. Wow. And it messed his world up.
Sure.
Really messed his world up. All right. Until the day he died, he was an addict of some sort or another. And it just, when I see somebody like you helping veterans, I'm so happy because I love my Uncle John. All right. And I know his world was messed up. All right. And if we knew today what we know, we knew today back then, imagine how many people coming out of Vietnam would be better off.
Absolutely. And I really feel like that's been the driving force for me is to be able to meet people where they are as if it was someone helping my dad. Right. And like kind of helping him be a better father, a better spouse. I was daddy's little girl until I was 5, and then I wasn't. And I don't know what he was going through. In fact, we talked about it. He became my best friend in the last 5 years of his life, but we talked about it and he was like, well, what was going on? I'm like, I don't know, Dad, you're the adult. I don't have a clue. And he didn't really know other than he was providing for his family. So he was a really good provider. He was not connecting. And so I just have the opportunity now to really help, anyone, but specifically someone who is going through a transition, really connect not only with their family, themselves, but the people around them, their community.
And I mean, did your dad going through this, all right, did this influence the way you've done everything in your life, or is just something in the last couple of years?
Yes, yes to both. So when he was telling me that story 6 months before he passed away, he said something about when he got back to the farm. That's where I grew up, was a farm. When he got back to the farm and got back to quote unquote normal life after being, overseas for a year, he said something about, I asked him a question. I don't even recall. I wish I had recorded the conversation. I asked him a question about something and he said, well, I didn't have a choice. And I thought, that really permeated my soul, because I feel like how many times have I said that in my life? Probably now looking back, I inherited it from him. And so I was in an abusive relationship at one point, and I remember saying, I didn't have a choice to get out. I was just waiting for him to kill me. And there were other situations I've been in. Maybe it was a job and it's like, well, I don't have a choice. This is all I know. And I realized we do have a choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when I started down the path of, coaching and getting my certification, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about the Fearless Living Institute. It was that they showed you how fear shows up. And that is that mindset of I don't have a choice, for me anyway, and that you do have a choice. Mm-hmm. So it's just been amazing to be able to shift from where I used to be to where I am now, and now be able to help other people moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Now you talk like, you say you were in an abusive relationship. All right. And I know you're now helping people. Do you work specifically helping women, or in your business, do you work men and women? And are there men that you help that have been in abusive situations?
Again, yes, all the above. It's interesting. So again, when I started on this path, I really thought that, one of the things I actually did was work with a coach to start my coaching business before I even went through a certification program. And how businesses are always like, who's your target market? And I'm like, I don't know. I only know what I know.
That question in the beginning too.
Yeah. And that was someone like me, right? Some sort of abused woman, right? Or someone who is going through a toxic relationship. Mm-hmm. So that's what I assumed, or guessed, I should say. And over time, it just kind of shifted. And it really became about being a communicator and being a leader and being able to see that in others, male and female, and showing those qualities, those values, those leadership values in themselves. So for me, it's really about people in transition, whether it's a divorce, maybe they've been employed and now they're going, owning a business, or maybe they've been laid off, or from the military to civilian life. It's really about figuring out not just what's next, but who you are and what's next.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this: in your life, all right, how long did you have to stumble figuring out who you are?
That's such a great question. So
I told you they weren't going to always be easy questions.
I love that you asked me that. I don't get asked that enough, actually. So when I was able to get away from that toxic relationship, I started Christian counseling immediately, number one. But number two, I asked myself this question of, what is it that I don't know that I need to know in order to move forward? And I just really was open to figuring out who I was. So the answer is, how long did it take? I'm still there. I think we're all still there. I never stopped learning who I am, right? So it's been, I don't even know, 12 years now, I guess, since that's happened. And I'm constantly growing and stretching and moving in a direction that would never have guessed. So I'm a constant, I don't even want to say chameleon. I'm just constantly growing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, as a coach, then I guess you've got education. Do you find it better with your education and trying to find and study more about you? Do you find it more fun to study others, or like create your own and learn while you're creating something?
It's a great question too. So I have it all, right? So I'm a coach. I have a podcast. I have a book. I think it's really about, for me, I created my own program. However, it's also about having conversations like this, and having conversations with people in period, just like learning. Maybe I get an aha moment from something somebody said. And by the way, I'm also a hairstylist. So I have conversations all day long. And so I think that's really the best part about being in where I am now, is being able to just, I call it, live life with curious exploration, and where I'm just open to learning and open to having a conversation, no matter who it's with.
Okay. Interesting. So, then, I mean, along the way though, we find people who kind of boost us and help us along. Did you have like one mentor who, or maybe many, but one of them that said like, maybe it was a line, maybe it was a continued line of coaching? Is there something in your past that you can define that from?
Absolutely. I have two. Rhonda Britton, who is the founder of the Fearless Living Institute.
I know Rhonda. Yeah. I've met Rhonda. Yeah. Great person.
She's phenomenal. She had, the show starting over. She said to me, we actually met at another conference for our website and didn't even know about coaching. And didn't even know about her certification program at the time. And she said, well, who's your certification through? And I said, oh, I don't have one. I said, do you think I should get one? And she's like, well, I have a certification program. Just her saying that, literally just her saying that. And then the next thing was that she said is, I help people break through fear and get them out of their comfort zone. Now, what she didn't know is that I had been a practitioner, is what I call it, of stepping out of my comfort zone on a regular basis since I got away from that relationship.
Yeah.
So, it was like probably 5 years or so, or 6 years, but now I was at least able to be able to call it something, call it a coach, and be able to do the same things that I've already been doing. So that was huge for me. That was a definitely defining moment. And then the second one was my friend, James Van Puren, who was also with Bunker Labs. If you know who they are. Yeah, they're veteran incubator space for business. And I met him at a podcast conference. He has a podcast too. And he said, what do you do with your coaching? And I said, oh, I transform trauma into treasure. And he's like, have you ever considered working with veterans? And that question right there completely shifted my life in a way I would have never, ever, even thought of.
I would actually trademark that whole idea, because I learned about trademarks 2 years ago, I guess. So, but I would trademark that term, to tell you the truth. That is a trademarkable thing, I would think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? It's interesting you said Rhonda. I remember Rhonda. I think it was Rhonda. I heard it was 2012 was when I heard her speak, and I was at a conference with her, and I met her, and she's just one of the most interesting personalities I've ever met. I'm in the back of the room talking to a photographer friend of mine, and she walks up, and I'm talking to him, and she goes, "Good looking lady here. Aren't you going to talk to me?" And I was like, I love her for that.
Yes. She's awesome.
Got an awesome personality. But then the other thing is I think the thing that got me when she said, she tried to kill herself, and she realized she sucked at it. So she better find a way to live. And I was like, that's an interesting way to actually say that. So I'm actually a failure at killing myself. So I guess I'm alive. I better learn to live with it. And I'm like, wow. Right. Most people will never look at their failures and try to build success from it. And I thought, man, of one place to fail and to be good at failing, it's good that you fail at killing yourself. Anyway.
Well, that's kind of what I've done. So I did the same thing, thought about suicide when I was growing up. I was a teenage alcoholic, abuse, addiction, anger issues, depression. I was a bully, and I was bullied. And I really realized that if I could overcome all of that, how can I be a safe place to really help other people to do the same? So that's really why I started coaching, was to say, I hear you. I've been there.
So, and it's interesting that you say that too, that you've gone through, going through alcoholism and going through abuse as a child, and bullied. I was bullied as well. I get that. But I'm probably the one person on the planet who is not like the anti-bully person. No, I'm about actually helping the guy being bullied gain his strength, as opposed to telling the bully, focusing all my efforts on the bully. And it's interesting that we all find different perspectives on helping people. When you were being bullied, who did you want to help at that point in time?
When I was being bullied?
Yes.
When I was being bullied, it goes back to that. I think that mindset of, I didn't have a choice to stand up for myself. Number one. Number two, when I was bullying other people, because hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
I didn't understand because I was, middle school, junior high age. So I really didn't understand what was happening almost impulsively.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting that you say that you meet people who want to help the bully. I find it the other way around. And I work with educators and teachers administration as well, and that they really focus on helping the victim of the bullied and instead of the bully. And I'm like, the bully is just are hurt, right? Something happened that they're acting out. And I can say I've been there.
Yeah.
And so, and not as I'm bragging about it by any means, but I realize that bullies have leadership skills. They're just directed in the wrong way. Yeah. And I now look back and think, what if someone had invested in me that I want to, be able to invest in them? I'm actually I'm just going to announce it. I'm working on a little program for bullies, but that's a whole nother story. But at some point to really invest in them to help them redirect them into a different path. I'm thinking if somebody had done that, maybe I wouldn't have been a teenage alcoholic. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten into an abusive relationship. So maybe I could save them, 20 years of grief in order to catch them in the middle school age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good, it would be good. It would be better to catch them when they're younger. But we all, in a way though, we are all victims of something that happened to us as a child. And it's how we use it when we come into adulthood. And it seems like you're doing something with it in adulthood, realizing that, I can't change where I've been. I can only change where I'm going. And how do you help your clients with that very concept? You know what I mean? Let's, yes, we talk about it for a bit, but now let's focus. Where can we go with this?
Well, that's where the treasure comes in, right? So for example, one of the clients that I work with, she's a Navy veteran, and she was, well, for lack of a better term, bullied and abused by, in childhood, sexually assaulted multiple times before the Navy, and then in the Navy, and then again by her husband, her ex-husband now. But there was so much negativity. That's what I found that's the common thread, is that there's this inner negative voice that's on this constant loop of, beating themselves up so badly that they have no self-worth. They can't even see out of that hole. All they see is just how awful of a person they are, or how unlovable they are, how insignificant their life is here. And I've been there. I have felt that. And there are still times I think that we all get that, right? That it might not last very long, but you can get there pretty quickly. Especially, I think 2020 taught us anything is when you're isolated and you don't reach out to anybody, you could probably get there very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the things that was so great with her is that over the course of working with her, she was able to really stand up not only for herself in her relationship with her parents, she was also able to stand up in the relationship with her in her job. So she had always really wanted to be a mentor, as a leader, right? She wanted to have that role. She was looked at as a leader. She didn't see it as that she was a leader. Mm-hmm. She was already looked at as a leader, and yet she wasn't mentoring in a proactively way. So because of the work that we did, she then was able to speak to her team differently. Mm-hmm. And now she's getting that, that feels great that they're listening to me now, that they're changing, that they're shifting what they're doing in their work. So she's getting fulfilled. So it's getting that whole circle to come back around and being able to fulfill yourself or herself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that because it reminds me of, one of the things that turned me back in becoming an entrepreneur as a young 20-something-year-old was a group of people that I was involved with in a direct selling company. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was brought to me at a conference, I'm listening as we do as coaches, we listen to everything in training. And the guy said, well, I'm actually got myself boxed in. I've got my downline who I'm always plugged into trying to help. And I've got my upline who are always sucking me up. And it's this place that I'm not going anywhere because I'm over here seeking help. And I'm over here giving help.
Yeah.
And I'm not keeping it in at any point in time because of the fact that I take it in, I use it, I give it out and make them use it. So, and I guess that's the same concept you're doing now with your clients.
Absolutely. I feel like when we learn something, we're gaining knowledge, and when we share it, we're giving wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've asked you about, different things. All right. I had a person, a boss I worked for, who gave me a line that has influenced every job that I've ever worked, every business I've ever owned from that point on. I was 20 years of age when he told me this. All right. And he basically was a part-time job and told me, Tim, run this job like you own this business. And that has influenced me my entire life. Have you had something that gave you that bit of wisdom? Now, you may not have acted on it right away, but you know what I mean? It still tumbles in your head. Do you have something like that?
I have two. So my dad was an employee as well as an entrepreneur. And one of the things he did was, sales, right? And he said, it's not about selling them the product. It's about building that relationship with them. Number one. And then very powerful. In fact, so he sold fertilizer. He was a farmer, but he also sold fertilizer and then also had a fertilizer distribution company.
Wow.
And my brother and I were just talking about this a while back. He would actually go visit a farmer, go into the field, park his truck, get out, walk up to the farmer while they're, plowing or in the tractor, in the combine, whatever, get out, he would stop, the farmer would stop, and they would have a conversation about how's it going? How are the kids? How are you feeling? How, are you sick? Whatever was going on in the day of that time. And then he's like, I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm going to grab lunch. I've got someone else to go to. I'm just going to leave at the house, a sample, give me a call when you want to, when you're ready to buy.
Yep.
And it's like, it wasn't about being pushy and to the sales. It was just really about being able to inform them on what works and what doesn't work for them. So I loved that my dad instilled that in me. I'm glad I inherited that. The second one is when I was training at a salon to be an educator, he said, you can train anyone to do anything, but you can't give them passion. They have to find that on their own. And that I believe has really also been a driving force in my business, is what is it that I'm passionate about and how can I build that and help others find their passion?
Wow. And that's huge. All right. And I love that you know what I mean? Those things carry you. But yeah, I love that passion. All right. Yeah. I mean, you can teach anybody anything, and I'll agree with that. I try my darndest to teach people blogging and podcasting until the cows come home. But sometimes they are just not passionate about doing it and not realizing that there is part of building the relationship with your audience. Yes. So I love it that, I'm sitting here chewing over a mine and I'm going to take 2 pieces of advice that you got today and apply to my own business. I love this.
Awesome. Love it.
Well, Shā, we've had some tough times in the past year here in America, all right, in the world for that matter, with COVID. Tough times are just part of being in business. What are some tough times that you've been through, all right, that you're trying to help others get through right now?
Well, so one of the things I knew that, like I said, I do have a salon as well. And I knew that at some point I would need to shift away from it full time. And so I spent years just trying on what would fit for me, what my passion was, where my purpose lies. Like, what is it that I love to do and can't wait to get out of bed every day? What is that? And I took years trying different things from, I have my certification in social entrepreneurship, which I still have a heart for the underserved, but it's also about, I also tried like social media marketing, and is that my thing? And, you know, I took classes on that. I took alternative MBA with Seth Godin, and, you know, really that is what was instrumental for me, because out of a cohort of, you know, 120 people across the world, they voted me, or my cohort voted me, you know, the best coach out of them. And I was like, wow, so maybe that's the direction I need to go in some way, shape, or form, is coaching. I think it's really about getting your feet wet and trying different things. And I knew at some point I was going to be more of in a speaker role. And I decided, well, how could I be comfortable being uncomfortable? And so I took improv classes for a year, right? And then after that, I was like, well, now what's next? What do I do next? And so, you know, I told you I went through this whole period of time where I did everything out of my comfort zone. And so I thought, well, I can talk to you in an improv way, but can I defend myself in an improv way? So I took Krav Maga, I trained in Krav Maga for a year. And, you know, just totally none of that has to do with business, other than the fact that, one, it was about getting my feet wet and trying new things. But when you are out of your comfort zone, period, in anything that you do, you're building up your confidence muscle. So anytime that you're vulnerable, you're building confidence.
I love that. I've got an experience with this. You're going to love it. All right. Because I love that. Is improv. I've never taken any improv, but I'm connected to a lot of people who do it, teach it, host workshops. As you can imagine, in our coaching field, we are. One of them is actor Glenn Morshower, and I go to one of his acting classes, and I hang out on a regular basis before COVID, and I loved it because it was my getaway to go watch these students act.
Yeah. And
he says, "Well, come on, Tim, be involved with the improv opening." And like I violated one or two of the rules of improv. I said no.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know, right?
Right.
So then, I mean, Glenn so nicely puts it. He goes, "Tim, in improv, that's one word we don't use."
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. And like I'm embarrassed at that point. I'm hanging around with 20 some odd, you know, people studying acting, who I'm just there to watch them, right? And I'm like embarrassed as hell because they just did this in front of all of them, and they think I'm like this big wig speaker guy, and I'm not. I'm just a guy, and I'm like having to come out of that being embarrassed. All right, what's some embarrassing things you've done that you just go, oh, let me just flip it and like act like it never happens? Or can you do that yet?
Yes, actually, I can. And I think it comes from being able to not necessarily flip it, but I think it's just about having resilience of being able to bounce back. So there was one where I was doing a fashion show, and as a hairstylist, I had all my hands full with bobby pins and hairspray. And I had to catch somebody as they were about to walk across the stage. But we were backstage, of course, right? Nobody could see this, but you have to go up the stairs, and then there's a tiny catwalk before they go through the curtain to the audience. So I go run up the stairs, trip up the stairs, didn't drop a bobby pin, didn't drop a can of hairspray. Everybody's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, focused on my person. I get to my person, spray her down, and then get back. And everybody's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Let's we don't have time to worry about me. They're about to go on stage." So yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, you know, I always love it when you can play stuff off. And I mean, I've played stuff off too, but still, it's like we get those moments where we're embarrassed.
Oh, for sure. Believe me, after it was over and I had time to process, I was definitely embarrassed. But at the time, it was like, I got to keep going.
Has that turned or anything like that ever brought about the comedic side of you? Like you now have comedic, or shall we say sarcastic tendencies now?
Well, I think I've always had sarcastic tendencies. Actually, that's one of the things that I learned when I was going through my healing process, is how there's a kind of two types of sarcasm. And one is sarcasm where it's really anger in a clown suit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then there's sarcasm that's just kind of poking fun and fun. It's not about hurting another person silently. And for me, it's the best thing I can do is laugh at myself. So I have been notorious for working out in gyms and lifting way too heavy or doing something that's really like I'm out of breath. And instead of like grunting or doing this, I like burst out in laughter. And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm either going to cry or I'm going to laugh. So I bet I might as well just laugh about it. So it's more about not necessarily being comedic. It's more about just finding the joy or the humor in whatever it is that I'm doing rather than looking at the negative side of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've got this whole thing with, you know what I mean? I'm not a life coach, but I mean, my first brand was called Rocker Life Coach. And like, I bought this domain name years ago, and I want to be a sarcastic type life coach, and I can't do it. It's just, I can do it naturally in tons of things, but I can't do it in an organized fashion. And It's called Bartender Life Coach, that I just want to do it as a freaking sarcastic, funny ass thing. And I actually I have a book outline to go with it, but I don't write it. It's called "You Don't Need a Life Coach: How to Fix Your Own Damn Life in 90 Days." But I can't write it sarcastically is the problem, because I'm so busy. I'm so in my mindset of helping people.
Right.
So we flip from the comedic, all right, to back to the real person and going, well, yeah, I want to be a smart ass, but like in real life, I can't.
Yes.
Elaborate if you've been there.
I have been there, and it's funny because ironic. It's almost about where you're almost defeated. Like, God, I really wanted to be funny in that moment. It didn't come out very funny. It was just more like, oh, that was serious. Darn it. But for me, it's whether you're funny or whether you're making someone think differently I think there's just so much power in that. Mm-hmm. So even if you're getting the person to think differently, so even if it would be a book about where you're the bartender and you're helping people from behind the bar, I don't necessarily know it has to be actually like funny. I think it just has to be useful.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of people who've listened in who Shay have probably dealt with some of the issues you've dealt with. All right. And some of them are still scared to reach out to you or I. All right. What advice would you give them if they're listening to this show today and they need services, not just from you, but from me, from any coach out there? What advice would you give them? You're
not alone, and you don't have to do this alone. I was just talking with a veteran who is actually who's a friend of mine, who had just come to the realization that he had PTSD. Mm-hmm. And he's been out for, I'm guessing 5 years now. He retired after 20 years, and he just realized he had all this anger built up inside. But he's a happy-go-lucky guy up until just recently. He's like, this is heavy weighing on me. And he was telling me how he didn't ever want to go to the VA to get help with PTSD therapists because he didn't think they would understand him. And I said, well, that's what they're there for. They're literally are dealing with exactly what, people who've gone through what you've gone through on a daily basis. And he said, yeah, but I just don't think they would understand me. And I said, okay, so why is it that what's driving you, what's prompted you to reach out to me and talk to me? Because that's what he was doing, was talking to me about it. And he said, it's because I trust you. I said, got it. And so if you're listening to this or watching this and you're thinking, well, I only want to relate to people I can trust, I asked him this question. And so I ask anyone who's listening is, are you trusting yourself, number one, more than who is it that you trust? And is it that you're not trusting them, or is it that you're not willing to be that vulnerable like we talked about before? And for him, it was really about willing to be vulnerable with someone new. So if you're listening and I'm as hesitant to reach out, I just want to say that anything that you do that's new is a risk. And fear is going to show up, right? And especially being vulnerable and sharing your story. And, if you had met me 12 years ago, I wouldn't even been able to share anything that I shared today. I said I had a wall built around me so high that I lived in the tower of a castle and with a moat around it. I mean, I was emotionally unavailable, didn't want to talk about feelings whatsoever. And I found that the more I talked about feelings and the more I coach now people with getting not in touch with their feelings, but also just being able to acknowledge them, it is so freeing when we acknowledge it rather than deny it, rather than resist it, rather than push it away. Because now it's like, well, and this one gentleman said, well, I opened up a can of worms. Now I have, or Pandora's box. Now I have this anger. And I said, yeah, you have the anger. And at some point, that anger will go away. You just have to allow time to get there. So, but inside, and you keep it inside, it eats you up physically. I said, he said, how so? And I said, you're going to get sick. Your body, it's going to manifest physically in your body somehow, that anger. For me, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. When I realized I was full of anger, I had pain everywhere. And I wanted to, I felt like I got hit by a Mack truck every morning and I wanted to cut my feet off every morning. I had so much pain. And when I realized it was anger and that I needed to let the anger go, and I did that through forgiveness, and there's a lot of people I needed to forgive, believe me, it dissipated. And I think as a society, we don't really talk about that, how the things that we were unwilling to talk about, or the unwilling to feel, the unwilling to show another person because we're afraid they're going to not love us, is really the thing that's going to allow us to be healthy, to show up healthier in the world.
Cool. So I'm going to put some of the comments up here. Some people have actually chimed in the comments. Lauren, one of my mastermind members. I love helping veterans. Our government treats them so poorly.
Agreed.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I had to. I just want to say that when my dad, he was diagnosed with cancer, we were going to the VA, and we would sit there for hours waiting to get into the appointment. And I'm just like looking around, observing, and I'm thinking exactly what she said. They treat so poorly. Is that these men and women that are sitting here fought for our country, and now they have to sit here and wait all day to get into their appointment? It just didn't seem like we were doing them any service that they did for us.
Yeah, true. So, good friend Melody actually said, I guess that was the book title I gave. She wanted to read that. Robert says, I know someone who can help remove that anger from your body, which he then put in the next comment. He did it for him, which is Tony. I don't know Tony. Do you know Tony?
No, I don't, but that sounds amazing.
I don't know him either. So, but yeah, that's the business we're all in. So, mind, body, soul, all work together. So, great comments coming in from the people here. No questions today, just comments. So, Shā, all right, as we're getting ready to close out, let's make sure people can get a hold of you. I know you got some books out there, all right, some book projects you're working on. What's the website that they can get a hold of you and find all your material on?
Yeah, so I saw one of your interviews where they held up the book, so I'm going to hold up my book.
Yep, gotta love it. Yeah.
It's How to Get Your Voice Back, and then I'm also in a co-author book. It's called Visionistas, Women Who Think Outside the Box. And then I also have a co-author book. I am facilitating a co-author book where entrepreneurs like us really get to come together and connect and collaborate with other like-minded creative people. And that's called Firestarters Book Project. So my website is shasparks.com. And it is, all my social media links is on there. My books are on there. And then also you can find my podcast is on there as well as all platforms, the Power of Investing in People podcast. Cool.
I'm glad that you got a podcast. I'm glad that you're out there doing stuff exactly like this. So, and it's great. Yeah. I briefly looked at your site and I noticed you had a lot of book projects going on. And have you done like the bestseller campaigns too with Amazon?
I have not. We're just getting ready to launch our first book. So
yeah. That's the only reason I'm in compilation books is I become I'm a 5-time #1 best-selling author. Because I'm in compilation books. I think I still have all of my copies of the compilation books. I give them to my clients when they get in. That's about it. Yeah. But anyway, so it's unique that, you know what I mean? Some of us have so many different ways that we go about being authors, and that, like you're doing now, you're helping other people share their story and become an author without having to go through all of the stuff it takes to be an author. So, but cool. So, well, Shā, I do appreciate you coming on the show today, but before we end, all right, I've got this little game I got to play with you. You heard, right?
Yes. I'm excited to find out what you came up with.
Tim has got them written down. And there's nothing funky like, you know what I mean, who's the better singer in Van Halen? I didn't put that one in this time.
Oh, okay.
All right. But we all know it's David Lee Roth, right? Anyway.
Yes, actually, I do.
Anyway, I'm a big Van Halen fan. Most people know it. I can't figure out how they figured that out. Yeah. Anyway, 9 questions designed to be this or that. Some of them may have a conversation about them. Some of them may not, but they're all designed to be fun. Number 1, I like to ask everybody: Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars all the way.
All right. Were you like 1970s Star Wars, or did you get into them in the 90s?
So I watched them when I was a kid, but I don't remember them. So I have revisited them. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't get into them in the 70s. All right. It wasn't until like the early 2000s when the next group came through. Yeah. And then I went back and I like the originals better still. Right. Anyway, my next one here is most people riding in the car nowadays, podcast, do you listen, or audiobook, or do you listen to a music while in the car?
All of the above.
All of the above. Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on the mood.
Oh,
so it could be literally, it could be country music. It could be contemporary Christian. It could be rap, or it could be classical, or it could be a podcast, a book. It's literally, it just depends on the mood.
All right. Do you have the satellite radio?
I did. I just got a new car, so the subscription ran out.
Yeah. I never had it, right? Until I think it was 2 trucks ago. It came with it for a year.
Yeah.
And I got hooked on it. So in the new truck, I bought it when I got the new truck. All right. And I keep the membership. My wife still won't get it in her car. She's like, no, I'm not spending that kind of money for it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I love it. But because you can flip through almost anything on satellite radio. Yes. So my next one here, we go into the clothing products. Are you a girl who likes to wear heels or boots? You know, to the South. So I had to ask that question.
You know, I thought about this because I heard you ask somebody else before, and I was like, I'm going to go with neither. I'm a sneakers kind of girl or flip-flops, but or it would probably be more boots. I have more boots than heels. I'd say that.
I'm wearing, all right, for the past year, I've been wearing my little bunny slippers, and the bottoms are worn out because that's all I've been wearing.
Right.
For a year, I haven't gone out of the house that much.
Right.
So then, all right, since you're a sneakers kind of girl, are you a dress up kind of girl, or are you like a yoga pants or jeans?
I'm definitely jeans. Okay. I wear yoga pants on occasion, but not outside the house unless I'm going to the gym. But most of the time, I'm a jeans person for sure.
Now, I don't know if you know this about me. Like, I had to buy a pair of dress pants to meet my coach at his country club. I didn't own a pair.
I'm sure.
For years, because basically when Zig said, be yourself, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be myself. I hate wearing suits. So I got rid of them all. I don't own a tie. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm dressed up from here up.
There you go. So
they're down. Yeah.
So I have to ask, are you wearing pants right now? Or are you just?
I am not going to stand up and show you. I know you want to look at my butt. I'm sorry.
I love it.
No, I wear jeans in the house. I still like, my wife's gone for the week. She's traveling for business, but like I get up and put jeans on, but like depending what I'm doing on camera as to whether I'm wearing a t-shirt or a dress shirt, but yeah, I always have jeans on. Yeah.
I used to until last year. And now I'm like, no, I'm wearing comfy pants on the bottom if I'm not leaving the house.
Yeah. Well, my mom lives in the same condo complex, and my brother is visiting from the Northeast right now. So people are walking into my house on occasion. Just they come over and walk in. Sure. And I don't have time to duck if I don't have pants on.
Sure.
Like my door, I can see my front door and it's glass. You can see right through it. So yeah, Anyway, I can't hide from my mom when I'm naked. Anyway.
She knows what's there.
So let's move on to food products. All right. I know you're kind of Midwest, but you know what I mean? Or Central USA, shall we say.
Yeah.
But, these two are kind of tough to decide, and it's taco or hamburger.
I'm definitely more taco.
Taco? All right. Not like, we're not talking like Taco Bell taco. We're talking like lunch truck taco, right?
Good question. Actually, both.
Yeah.
Taco's a taco.
Well, no. The best taco I've ever had when I was car wash industry, and this guy used to come to the car wash and make tacos out of his trunk of his Nissan, whatever.
Nice.
They were the best tacos I've ever had, hands down.
Nice.
And yeah, anyway. How about this one here? All right. Are you a beer or wine drinker, or are you like a coffee tea person?
I've been sober for 22 years.
Okay.
So I'm neither. However, when I did drink, I was definitely more of a beer drinker. Mm-hmm. And thank God it was, before wine was portable in a can. And I think now when I used to drink. Coffee and tea, I drink tea most mornings, coffee on occasion, especially with friends. Yeah. I like it black, but I do like a foo-foo chai tea latte every now and then.
Yeah. I have to go to Starbucks in the morning. I am not having a cup of coffee here at home. I have to go to Starbucks and get something. Anyway.
So how did you survive 2020? Because were they open down there when it was?
They had a portion of time that you could only go through drive-through, and because my wife was working here, that's another thing I can't stand is going through drive-thrus. So my wife would drive me down through the drive-through to get my drink. Because I couldn't stand going to the drive-thru. And then I made a deal with them to basically said, listen, I'm just going to phone you when I'm in the parking lot and just bring it to the front door and hand it to me. And they're like, no problem. We'll do that for you.
You can do that on the app.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was. We would order it on the app, and then basically they'd come meet me at the front door.
Nice.
And you know what I mean? They did it for me. I mean, but then again, the amount of money we spend there at Starbucks, I think we've made house payments for some of them employees. So sure. I'm like I worked for Starbucks for 5 years, but no, Starbucks is one thing. Take me to a private, independent coffee shop. All right. And I'm just going to use one word when I go to their place: orgasmic.
When I go to those places, for me, it's because I like my coffee black. If it's so good, then I'm like, oh, I'm definitely coming back here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can relate.
Yeah. And I love doing tasting coffee. Anyway, I'm into coffee so much. So my next one here, does pineapple belong on pizza? Yes or no?
I don't think I've ever ate it.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with probably not.
Okay. Hey, this is your opinions, not mine,
And I'm assuming you have the opposite opinion?
What's wrong with it? I mean, come on. Pineapple and pepperoni on pizza is like the greatest pizza.
So you don't do it with the Canadian bacon or the?
I've done it with the Canadian bacon too. I like the pineapple better than the Canadian bacon. Yeah. So, but I know like a lot of people like it with the Canadian bacon, and I got it. First time I ever got it was with pineapple, and like the first time you get something that's the way you want it every time. And nothing compares. Yeah,
Right. It's like drugs. Or so I've heard.
So now we get to the nitty-gritty ones. The toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll or under at your house?
It just has to be on the roll.
Oh. So then you're not visiting my bathroom is what you're saying.
Because if it's on the sink, it is not in the right place.
Wow. We are opposites. Trust me. And my last one, always the classic, boxers or briefs?
Well, since I am single, I love a man who wears boxer briefs.
I love you too.
Love it. Love it.
Shay, this has been one of my funnest funnest episodes in a long time. I so appreciate you coming on the show today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, as this has been fun. It made my day. Thank you.
I hope we get to do more things together. All right. One more time, tell everybody your website so they can get a hold of you. Come check out them books you got.
You can find me at ShāSparks.com, and you can get my books there. All my social media is there, and my podcast, The Power of Investing in People.
Cool. So I thank you for being on the show today. And to you, our guest, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Oh my gosh, the comments that you guys have made, the information you come in, all right, and the support you've shown for both me and Shā. I appreciate it today. Please go to ShāSparks.com and check her out. All right, remember, I only bring the coolest of people on here. I do it so that you'll go check them out, find out who they are, get to know them because they're cool people. All right. If this is your first time tuning in, do us a favor, subscribe. Go to TimGilletteShow.com. Subscribe to where you get your podcast. All right. Follow us on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm Tim Gillette with The Tim Gillette Show. Thank you for Shā Sparks being our guest today, and we'll be back tomorrow with another guest. I'll see you then. Bye now.